Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville, we are glad you are with us. Florida and Mississippi State, Saturday, 4:15. You'll hear the game right here on 1010XL. Florida 2-4 on the year after another loss on Saturday in College Station. And now it's almost like it's just a waiting game, right? It's not a matter of if, but when Billy Napier is let go. Gator fans probably hoped it would already have happened. It has not yet. Let's talk about all of it with Andrew Spivey, GatorCountry.com, always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Andrew, I imagine it's a very busy time for you down there in Gainesville.
Absolutely. And, I hate to say this, Ryan, but I think listening may be down a little bit on Saturday. I think most fans have said, forget it. It's over with.
Yeah, I wonder if that'll be down and what the attendance will be like at homecoming with Mississippi State coming in. All right, the bottom line is they're 2-4. That's the reality. People want Billy gone. And the fact that Penn State cut ties with James Franklin as quickly as they did does not leave a good taste in Gator fans' mouths for what Scott Stricklin is doing with this situation, correct?
No, I mean, Penn State, I would say, is in a much better place as a program than Florida is right now. I mean, heck, they were, a contender last year, 2 years ago was in the college football playoffs. They were, considered one of the top teams in the country this year. And, they lost 3 games that were just embarrassing losses. But, still at Florida, you would probably take that. You would probably trade places with Penn State right now and take that just because of how bad things have been. And, to see Penn State move on says, hey, they're serious about football, whereas Florida's not serious about football. Scott Stricklin's not serious about winning football games at Florida. Because, quite frankly, this is the same thing that's been going on for 3 years now, or 4 years now. It is a football team that has no identity, that, doesn't have a drive in some games, that looks like they've quit in some games, that, offensively has no rhythm. There's no setting things up to get things going. They're a talented roster, one of the most talented rosters in the country with playmakers everywhere, but yet you can't seem to find any kind of rhythm outside of scripted play calls. And, Saturday was just another game for Billy of what if you were a decent play caller? What if you were a decent football coach? What would have been, different in that game? And I think you can argue Florida had as much talent, if not more talent than A&M, but they were outcoached.
Andrew Spivey, GatorCountry.com. Andrew, I hate the fact that we're here because I don't even know if I'm going to ask you about the game on Saturday. I mean, here we are in the month of October, and we're not talking about anything with relation to what's going to happen on Saturday. It's all about Billy Napier, Billy Napier, Billy Napier, and that's a shame, but it's the reality. You're connected over there, man. You've covered that program for a long time. Let me flat out ask you, why has Scott Stricklin not pulled the plug yet? What is the deal?
Scott likes a yes man, and he's got one. Scott feels like his, resume fails if Billy fails. And, quite frankly, Scott got the insurance he needed. He got his extension. Now he needs to do what's best for the program. And, you're in the same boat you were last year. At this time last year, we were thinking, when is it over with? It has to be over with soon. And then they had the run late in the season. But what coach, Brian, and there, I'm sure there was somebody, but what coach has had that moment where fans have said, all right, he's done. They've won a couple games and then fixed it long term. I don't know that there's been very many. So it's one of those things where it's like you knew it was coming. It was just, why are we prolonging this? And that's exactly what Scott Stricklin's doing. He's prolonging it, hoping that it gets fixed. And the simple answer is it's not going to get fixed. 4 years is enough time, especially in this day and age of NIL where you can, rebuild a roster overnight, season to season. It's not. You have the roster. You've had the buy-in from the boosters. You've had every bit of buy-in from the university and the administration. You have everything you need to win, but a coach and a coaching staff and a play caller to do it. There's no player or coach that can come into this team and change Billy Napier from play calling, and that's what's losing football games.
You know, you look at Billy's resume there, all right, and it's obviously not good, but when you look at all the numbers, 21-23 is the record under Billy Napier. The Gators are 11-16 in SEC play, and maybe the most disturbing number, they're 14-22 against Power 4 opponents. All right, why Stricklin hasn't done it is beyond all of us. So let's focus on Billy now for a second. Andrew, why didn't it work? Why is it going to be over in a couple of weeks? What failed at Florida with Billy Napier?
Stubbornness, not willing to adapt and change, not willing to adjust, and I had this question asked to me earlier today, and they said, what wins at Florida? And I said, what wins at Florida is an ego and I'm going to do it my way person. Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer, they've shown that. They do it their way. Great coaches do it their way. They don't take advice from anybody else. They do it their way. Billy Napier is not that guy. He doesn't get that he can't call plays. He's still living in the era of I'm going to show Dabo Sweeney and Steve Sarkisian that I'm a great play caller. Well, guess what? You're the head football coach at the University of Florida, which is better than the University of Clemson, and at one time was better than the University of Texas. Why are you trying to prove yourself to him? You came in to Florida and you said, hey, I'm the CEO type of coach that nothing is going to go on in this program without passing my desk. Well, there's been a lot of things at Florida that's gone on that have been an absolute disaster. We can start with the Rashada stuff. We can start with 12 men on the field at all times, special teams blunders. You name it, it's happened at Florida, and it's continued to happen. So you want to talk about being the CEO, but you are failing consistently in the program. Your play calling is just horrible. Boosters, administration, they've asked you for 2 years to give up play calling. You won't give it up because you keep saying that you're the best person for the job. That's not the case, Ryan. We've seen that for 2 years, 3 years. After the scripted plays are called, this offense is atrocious. I was telling someone earlier, you had Cassius Howell at defensive end, and yes, he was abusing Austin Barber all night long. Ryan, you cover the NFL. How many days and games do you ever play one-on-one with the best defensive player on the game? Right. You don't. You have somebody chipped there. So what are you doing? Why are you allowing one guy to take you out of that? And it's simple. Billy Napier doesn't know what he's doing.
Andrew Spivey, GatorCountry.com. And you got to read the room, too. I mean, and I get that it's frustrating on their part, but it kind of comes with the territory of being on that staff when things aren't going well. When the GM of the football program goes on social media after the Texas game and basically mocks the fan base by tweeting out the Sunbelt Billy thing, and then he's nowhere to be found after they get boat raced by Texas A&M, again, that's just not a good look, correct?
And he deletes the tweet after he gets called out. So It's like, somebody had to go tell him this. But here's the problem. You have a young GM that's 30-some years old trying to run a massive program in the University of Florida when he wasn't doing a good job in recruiting. So they moved him to GM where he was supposed to be this, over the entire program. It wasn't good, Ryan. Like that's not the case. You can go back and look. Why did it take till year 4 before the defense looked really good? It's because he went through all of his friends to get to a defensive coordinator who could call plays. He went through Patrick Toney, and then he went through Austin Armstrong, friends of his, that to get to where he is. And that's ultimately what's going to hurt him is that case of not knowing and not recognizing that the University of Florida is not ULL. And it cracks me up with some of these guys who work for Saban, and it's like they didn't learn anything from him. Nick Saban was loyal to one person and one person only, and that's himself and to the university. Billy Napier and some of these other guys that have been through the door that have been his assistants and failed, they're too loyal to things. They didn't learn anything from Nick Saban when he was there of, hey, you have to do what's best for the program. And Unfortunately, Billy Napier's just not that guy. And, he's a great person off the field, but he's not fit to be the University of Florida head football coach. It takes a special person to do it. He's not the guy.
All right, as we begin to wrap up, let's go quick here. Obviously, all the names that are being talked about, and again, I absolutely hate that we're doing this, but it is what everybody wants to know. Lane Kiffin, yes or no? Would that be a fit? Is there interest on both sides, or is there only interest from one side, as I've been told? I don't know how interested Florida actually is there.
Lane Kiffin would be a home run hire. Scott Stricklin, if he's making the call, will not hire Lane Kiffin.
Right, and that's kind of what I've been told through the grapevine. Do we have any reasoning as to why that would be the case, if that is indeed true?
Because Lane would be bigger ego than Scott, and Lane would not be a yes man to Scott. Lane would do things his way.
Brent Key, Eli Drinkowitz.
Eli's the guy Scott likes. He's a yes man, but I've heard that Eli is very comfortable at Missouri, where there's hardly no pressure there. I don't think he'd be a fit at Florida. He is goofy Dan Mullen, and I'm not sure that goofiness is good at Florida. Obviously, he knows how to coach offense and win games. Just not sure his personality fits Florida, but that's a guy Scott Stricklin does like.
What about Brent Key?
Heard Brent Key's name a lot, that they like him, but I've heard Brent Key is, at home at Georgia Tech where he played, and that he has no interest in that. Florida's done some, backdoor talks already with him over the past, year to kind of see his interest, and he's told them all along, I'm not interested.
Kurt Cignetti.
That's a name that I've heard just from Booster side of things, not from the Florida side of things. He'll listen. Kurt will listen. I think he'd be great. I really do. The problem there is, how long do you have him? He's an older guy. How long do you have him? I'm not sure of that, and I'm not sure of Scott's opinion on him.
All right, I've mentioned 4 guys. Is there anybody else? Would they call Marcus Freeman, make him tell you no? Would you call Dan Lanning, make him tell you no? Is there any other name that you're hearing?
Yeah, I mean, they'll call Lanning, and they're going to call Marcus Freeman. Those are guys that they're going to call. I've heard, James Franklin may be a name because there's no buyout there. I think that would be absolutely, terrible. Alex Golish or whatever, USF is a name that I've heard, that some people behind the scenes like a lot. But I've also heard that, they really want to go to a Power 4 conference guy, somebody that's proven that they can do it, on a big stage, and that they're tired of the lower level guys. And you could understand that. Problem is, it's going to be tough because you're bottom top Power 4 school right now. You're not exactly an attractive hire or a job right now, in my opinion.
Final question. I believe they're going to beat Mississippi State. But, Andrew, if they lose on Saturday, he's gone on Sunday, correct? You can't lose homecoming to go to 2-5 and stay around for Georgia, can you?
I'm going to be honest. I think he's gone no matter what. I really do.
Wow,
I think he's gone no matter what. But I'm also picking Mississippi State to win the game on Saturday. I think Levy is doing really good there and is getting a program, on the right track. Corey Bell's on the defensive side of the ball, doing really well. They're a couple yards away from being 5-1. I mean, they had Tennessee on the ropes. They had A&M on the ropes. I have Mississippi State winning, but no matter what, I think going into Jacksonville in 2 weeks that you have an interim coach, probably in Jabbar Jalou, or maybe even Ron Roberts as your interim coach. I don't think that the fan base is going to be okay with Billy Napier coaching that Georgia game.
All right, could be very interesting in Gainesville, one way or the other, coming up this Saturday. Again, 4:15, homecoming against Mississippi State. You'll hear the game right here on 1010XL. Andrew Spivey, GatorCountry.com. Andrew, terrific stuff, man. Thank you as always. We'll talk again soon, pal.
Absolutely, Ryan. Take care.
Hacker here. Thank you guys so much for watching this video on the 1010XL Gator channel. Be sure and like, subscribe, and keep it locked right here on all the 1010XL YouTube channels on the 1010XL YouTube network.